Guys, so a week before Charlie lost his life, he expressed some concerns about the finances at Turning Point USA. In fact, he wanted to put together an entire department, a little mini department, to address those concerns, and we have...
The internet didn't just break last night, it collapsed, caught fire, and rolled into traffic screaming for help. Because out of nowhere, polished, perfect political darling Erika Kirk went from posting inspirational quotes and filtered selfies to being the center of a $15 million Freedom Point Institute financial bombshell that makes the Kardashians look like they run a church bake sale. 1 second she was glowing on stage, and the next, leaked documents were spreading across encrypted group chats like the world's juiciest digital plague. Screenshots, secret folders, midnight access logs, whispers of missing transfers, and then the real punch. Insiders claiming the IRS didn't just notice, they moved fast. Staff members allegedly panicked so hard that shared drives disappeared. Messages got wiped. And someone whispered, "If this gets out, it's over." But the biggest shocker wasn't even the missing money. Nope. The IRS reportedly stumbled onto something far darker buried behind the accounting mess. Something no one was prepared for. Grab your popcorn, your burner phone, and whatever innocence you had left. Because this scandal, it's about to explode. The scandal didn't begin with a bang. It began with a whisper, the kind of whisper that slithers through private group chats at 2 a.m., crawls across Discord servers, and explodes into full-blown chaos before anyone has a chance to pour their first cup of coffee. One moment, Erika Kirk was the polished, camera-ready sweetheart of Freedom Point Institute, glimmering like a political influencer carved straight out of marble. The next moment, her name was being dragged across the internet like it owed the world money, literally. According to the first leak, ALLEGETLY dropped by a former FPS staffer hiding behind a VPN and 3 burner accounts. Erika wasn't just tangentially tied to controversy, she was allegedly sitting in the dead center of a $15 million black hole in FPI's finances. $15 million, the kind of number that doesn't just raise eyebrows, it rips them off and throws them across the room. The kind of number that makes even seasoned political watchers gasp like they've been slapped. But it wasn't the missing money alone that detonated this scandal. It was what people claimed happened after the first spreadsheet leaked. Insiders whispered that within mere hours, not days, not weeks, the IRS allegedly escalated from passive observation to immediate action. Something insiders described as rapid response, mode translation, whatever they saw in. Those leaked papers allegedly made federal watchdogs sit up straighter than a Marine in a uniform inspection. Screenshots began flooding private chats, staffers panicking, message threads disappearing, digital folders vanishing into thin air. One screenshot circulating wildly showed a message that read, "They're asking for files we didn't even know existed." Another said, "If this gets out, it's over." And those weren't panic trolls. Those were allegedly internal voices. People who worked inside Freedom Point. People who suddenly didn't know who to trust. The strangest part, in every frantic message thread, one name kept popping up like a glitch in the Matrix. Erika Kirk, not a CEO, not a CFO, not a financial officer. Just someone whose influence had quietly grown wider, louder, and more suspicious over the past year. But anyone paying attention had seen the warning signs long before this nightmare exploded. Erika was always a little too polished, a little too curated. The sort of public figure who posted inspirational quotes while storms brewed behind her eyes. Her events always felt perfectly staged. Her captions always overly sanitized. Her smiles always lasted 2 seconds too long. People whispered that she was too perfect, and perfect people are usually hiding something. Insiders said the shift began the moment Erika started inserting herself into rooms she didn't belong in. Strategy meetings, budget discussions, internal planning sessions. At first, it seemed harmless. Maybe she was ambitious. Maybe she wanted to help. Maybe she was networking. But then staffers began joking nervously that she showed up to more financial meetings than the accounting department. Volunteers whispered that Erika had an opinion about every project. whether or not it was hers. Someone would propose a community event and a staffer would say, well, Elara wants the funding moved here instead. Someone would pitch a budget idea and a senior leader would shrug. Elara already approved something. Else, it wasn't her job and it wasn't subtle anymore. The first red flags popped up around funding. Shifts, amounts disappearing from one project only to reappear under another name. At first, people blamed the usual excuses: accounting glitch, miscommunication, clerical error. But the pattern didn't stop, it grew. Weeks passed, and insiders claimed they noticed approvals tied to people who swore they never signed a thing. Documents with mismatched dates, signatures that looked copied and pasted. Then the infamous note surfaced in a blurry screenshot. EK wants this fast-tracked. Don't ask questions. Chaos slowly crept in behind the scenes. One contractor said the moment Elara walked into the production office, the entire atmosphere changed. People straightened up. They rehearsed lines. They spoke slowly and carefully, like they were trying not to step on invisible landmines. He said it felt like everyone was acting, pretending, scared to make her mad. And nothing screams red flag like an office full of adults scared of one woman's opinions. Events became their own disaster zones. FPI's big annual summit, supposedly funded and finalized, suddenly faced missing invoices, vendors demanding overdue payments, and to different budgets floating around like dueling realities. Staffers privately said they knew something was wrong. They felt it in their stomachs. But anytime someone asked a question, they were shut down with the same line: just do what Elara wants. The breaking point came 6 months before the scandal erupted. That's when Freedom Point entered its most expensive quarter ever. Mega events, flashy media partnerships, influencer dinners that looked more like Hollywood premieres. Millions began flowing through the organization so fast insiders described the internal environment as financial turbulence. Yet in the middle of that storm, Elara's influence allegedly tightened. She allegedly insisted on approving budgets she had no business touching. She allegedly appeared in meetings that didn't require her. And every time someone questioned something, she allegedly dismissed them with a calm, polished smile. Then came the infamous whispered moment, the accountant who raised questions about a missing chunk of funds. The next day, she was reportedly reassigned to a different department without explanation. That was when some insiders said they realized Elara wasn't just confident. She was allegedly controlling. And then everything snapped. It happened late one night. An internal alert blasting across the system. Unauthorized access detected. Sensitive documents compromised. Chaos exploded instantly. Phones buzzed. Staff ran through hallways. Managers scrambled. And in the center of it all stood Elara, calm, stone-faced, unfazed. As one employee put it, she didn't look surprised. She looked prepared. And that was the moment everyone knew. This wasn't a glitch. This wasn't an oopsie. This was the beginning of a storm so massive, so explosive. It would drag every name, every folder, every approval, and every dollar into the spotlight, whether they liked it or not, because the missing money was only the first scandal. What investigators allegedly uncovered next? That was the one that would change everything. The moment the alert spread across the building, the story stopped being an internal mistake and transformed into a full-scale digital earthquake. By sunrise, whispers of the breach had leaked beyond the walls of Freedom Point Institute. What started as quiet confusion turned into a wildfire of paranoia. Employees who had spent the night pacing hallways were now refreshing their phones like the world was ending, because to them, it was screenshots hit private Telegram channels like contraband. Messages reading "Do not open" Red Summit file spread faster than any press release ever could. One staff member allegedly typed, "They're looking at the folder." The one nobody talks about. Another sent, "Shut your mouth or you'll lose your badge." Panic wasn't the problem. The speed of it was. Rumors say staff deleted emails so fast the servers lagged like a glitchy video game. But the internet? Oh, the internet devoured the chaos. Within hours, #Freedom Point leaks trended worldwide. People made memes of Elora hiding money behind the American flag. TikTokers reenacted the night of the breach with dramatic music and low-budget props. Twitter detectives built wild conspiracy boards with red string like they were auditioning for a crime drama. One viral tweet said, "Elora Keane didn't manage a scandal, she produced a whole season of it." Another joked, "She's giving FBI chic." Even celebrities jumped in for the clout. A pop singer tweeted, "Why does this feel like a rejected Netflix thriller?" A comedian posted, $15 million vanishes. Girl, teach me your budgeting skills. And an actor who once appeared at an FBI gala captioned his Instagram story with, "I knew she blinked suspiciously," but while the internet laughed. Insiders were spiraling because someone inside Freedom Point leaked the first real bombshell. The mysterious Project Red Summit folder had been accessed during the breach. And nobody, absolutely nobody, knew who unlocked it. Red Summit wasn't your average charity initiative or donor outreach program. It was the kind of internal file whispered about only in hallways, referenced in vague hints like, hallways, referenced in vague hints like, that's above your pay grade, or don't ask about that project, a ghost file, an invisible project, a digital rumor with a name too clean to be innocent. And now, according to leaked comments, investigators were staring straight at it. The timeline got messier from there. Someone leaked a half-blurry image showing a spreadsheet with numbers that made even seasoned accountants clutch their chests. Payments that didn't match any vendor. Transfers labeled MISC, signatures nobody recognized. And sitting near the top, a $4.2 million entry stamped with two simple initials. EK, that image alone triggered a meltdown. People reposted it like they were passing around Forbidden's treasure. Influencers filmed reaction videos with the energy of unhinged detectives screaming at walls. Political commentators hosted emergency live streams at 1:00 TikTok creators who had never uttered the word Institute before were suddenly doing deep dives like experts. But memes and reactions were nothing compared to the second shockwave. A long-form anonymous post, allegedly from a former Freedom Point contractor, claimed Project Red Summit wasn't just a money funnel. It was a digital vault. A vault of conversations, private recordings, internal messages, files that had nothing to do with finances, and everything to do with leverage. The post suggested Red Summit stored material collected over years, material that could ruin reputations, influence decisions, and control alliances. The internet gasped so hard it practically sucked the oxygen out of the cloud servers. People online speculated like they were auditioning for conspiracy podcasts. Some said it was blackmail. Some claimed it was compromat. Some insisted it was a politically motivated surveillance archive. Most just screamed into the void. A creator with 500K followers declared, "This is next-level manipulation." Another whispered, "You don't move $15 million for no reason. You move it to protect something." Even worse, political donors, the elite, quiet, extremely wealthy ones, began posting cryptic messages. One wrote, "If any recording of me exists, Freedom Point will burn." Another said, "Someone's about to take the fall. And it won't be me." Influencers who once shared staged photos with Elora began scrubbing their feeds clean like digital housekeepers. Plates of catered food disappeared. Conference selfies vanished. Fancy hotel pics evaporated. Relationships dissolved overnight under the weight of plausible deniability. Meanwhile, chaos inside the building hit unimaginable levels. Some staff insisted Elora was the mastermind. Some claimed she was the scapegoat. Others said Red Summit existed long before she gained influence. One leaked group chat showed a staffer typing, "She always acted like she knew more than she should." Another responded, "She's either brilliant or terrified. No in between." But the strangest detail came from someone who claimed to have worked close to Elora. They said she had a habit of giving speeches about operational integrity while locking her laptop with triple encryption. That she once shut down a meeting by saying, "We're managing things the way they need to be managed." That she handled sensitive documents like they were radioactive. And the more people remembered, the worse the reputation storm became. A journalist tweeted, Sometimes the most polished people hide the most chaos, a political analyst added. This smells less like incompetence and more like a cover-up. But the true escalation hit when a second document leaked, one that mentioned Red Summit's subfolders. 3 names stood out: logistics, confidential security, restricted travel, private authorization only travel. Insiders said travel was an internal code word used only when high-profile individuals needed to move silently with no public record. The moment that rumor hit social media, the internet lost its last remaining sanity. Creators screamed into microphones, travel didn't mean travel. This was a movement pipeline. What were they hiding? Nobody had answers, but everyone had theories. Supporters tried to defend Alara, insisting she would never oversee something like this. Critics dragged her mercilessly, saying her curated persona was a mask. And the undecided crowd. They were the loudest, demanding the truth, demanding transparency, demanding answers from a woman who hadn't spoken a single word publicly since the scandal began. Her silence grew louder than the accusations. And the louder it grew, the more people wondered, was she fighting for her innocence or protecting someone else? Then came the most chilling rumor yet, whispered by insiders, amplified by commentators, and repeated like a prophecy. Red Summit wasn't hers. She was just the face. If that was true, then someone else, someone higher, was pulling the strings. Someone with more access than Alara, someone with real power. And that rumor didn't just escalate the scandal, it flipped the entire narrative upside down. The fallout didn't arrive slowly. It crashed down like a collapsing skyscraper, one floor after another, until the entire Freedom Point Institute shook under the weight of its own secrets. The more investigators dug into the Red Summit files, the more the internet realized the scandal wasn't winding down. It was mutating, sharpening, and revealing layers nobody expected to see. Alara Keene's reputation evaporated almost overnight. The poised, polished image she'd curated for years vanished beneath a tidal wave of suspicion. Supporters who once praised her leadership now questioned whether they'd ever truly known her. Critics who had waited years for an opening now stepped forward with the confidence of lions scenting blood. Even her closest allies went silent, pretending they had never exchanged a single handshake or selfie with her. The public didn't just lose trust, it flipped into full-blown outrage. Forums filled with theories, private groups buzzed with speculation, and journalists camped online waiting for the next explosive leak. People demanded accountability, transparency, and answers that nobody inside Freedom Point could provide. And every hour Alara stayed silent only deepened the suspicion swirling around her name. Inside the organization, the atmosphere collapsed into total chaos. Staff walked on eggshells, terrified to open emails or answer calls. Managers held frantic meetings, trying to determine what information investigators had, what was missing, and what could still be salvaged. Everyone sensed that their futures hung in the balance, dangled by threads thinner than trust. Then came the bombshell that changed everything. Investigators noticed something unusual in the data logs. The most sensitive Red Summit files, the ones listed under the highest level of access, had been blocked during the breach. Not by investigators, not by IT, blocked from the inside. Someone with top-tier clearance had activated a lockdown command moments before investigators reached the archive. That command erased timestamps, wiped certain records, and encrypted core directories beyond recovery. The discovery sent shockwaves through the building. Alara didn't have that authority. She never had that level of access. That meant someone else inside Freedom Point outranked her in ways nobody publicly acknowledged. Someone hidden behind layers of secrecy and operational smokescreens. Someone whose name never appeared in press releases or staff directories. People began whispering about the mysterious initials CL found buried in metadata. That small detail changed the trajectory of the scandal. Suddenly, commentators weren't debating whether Alara was guilty. They were debating whether she was being framed as the convenient fall girl. Her connection to the missing funds looked less like orchestration and more like proximity to someone far more powerful. Theories spread like wildfire. Some claimed CL was a board member. Others said it was a donor. A few insisted it was someone who didn't officially exist on payroll. A political strategist argued on livestream that Red Summit was far too sophisticated for Alara to run alone. He said the precision, the encryption, the layered access looked like the work of someone trained in covert operations. His clip went viral because nobody could deny the logic. The internet changed direction instantly. Now people argued whether Alara was guilty or trapped. Supporters said she had been manipulated. Critics argued that even if she wasn't the mastermind, she still played her part willingly. But the entire narrative shifted the moment a whistleblower surfaced claiming Alara was never intended to be the center of the scandal. She was simply visible enough to take the hit if anything collapsed. According to the whistleblower's message, Red Summit existed long before Alara's rise inside Freedom Point. They claimed she only became involved because she was ambitious, impressionable, and close enough to power to be useful. They insisted she didn't approve the biggest transfers, she only approved surface-level adjustments meant to disguise deeper movements orchestrated by someone else. But the most chilling detail came next. The whistleblower said the IRS discovered a second vault buried beneath Red Summit. A vault containing files not related to money but to personal leverage, communications, confidential recordings, behavioral assessments. Information so sensitive it could shift alliances or dismantle entire networks. They said Alara's name wasn't in that vault at all, except in one note attached to a hidden document that read, "She thinks she's helping." That one phrase ignited a fresh wave of speculation. If Alara truly believed she was supporting legitimate internal operations, she may have been unknowingly helping someone build a machine of control. A machine powered by secrecy and manipulation rather than spreadsheets. While the internet debated, Freedom Point's upper leadership scrambled to contain the damage. They released vague statements about integrity, accountability, and cooperation with investigators. Yet none of their words addressed the rapidly growing suspicion that someone at the top had orchestrated the entire operation from behind a curtain of silence. Then came another shock. A leaked report revealed that the missing funds were only part of a much broader pattern of unusual financial activity linked to Red Summit. Transfers routed through shell programs, payments disguised as consulting fees, budgets altered after approval. Some patterns stretched back years, far beyond Alara's rise within the organization. Suddenly, she was no longer the villain in the public eye. She was a clue, a breadcrumb, a symbol of how deep the real corruption might go. And then the darkest twist all hit the internet like a meteor. The final encrypted Red Summit file, discovered but never opened, had been wiped during the internal blackout. However, investigators managed to recover one corrupted line of text from the file's temporary cache. A single sentence, incomplete but terrifying. It read, "If this file is accessed, core liaison will be exposed." The rest was corrupted beyond recognition. Core liaison, CL, the initials that had haunted the investigation for weeks. The internet erupted. People demanded to know the identity behind CL. Commentators declared the scandal far from over. Analysts warned that this signaled involvement at a level nobody expected. And conspiracy theorists claimed Freedom Point had been infiltrated by a shadow hierarchy all along. Alara still remained silent through everything. No interviews, no statements, no denials. Some said she was terrified. Some said she was negotiating. Others said she was preparing to reveal the truth in a way that would burn the entire house down. Her silence became the loudest noise in the entire scandal. And now the world waits. The missing file, the mysterious CL, the erased servers, the blackout timed to perfectly, the money trail that stopped too abruptly, the vault of confidential recordings that nobody can explain. This isn't closure. It's a pause. Because if even one more leak escapes the shadows, if one insider decides to break their silence, if one hidden folder resurfaces from the digital ruins of Red Summit, everything people thought they knew about Alara, Freedom Point, and the shadowy figure behind core liaison could flip again in an instant. And when that happens, this scandal won't just be a meltdown. It'll be a political earthquake felt across every circle of influence connected to the Institute. Because the truth isn't gone. It's waiting. And if you're somehow still sitting upright after surviving that avalanche of leaks, secrets, whistleblowers, and digital blackouts, congratulations, you officially have the emotional stamina of a federal investigator on their 7th cup of coffee. Because this isn't just a scandal anymore. This is a political thriller disguised as real life, a meltdown so chaotic it makes reality TV look like children's programming. But don't blink now. The biggest twist hasn't even hit yet. The missing Red Summit file is still out there, the mysterious core liaison is still hiding in the shadows, and Alara's silence is getting heavier by the hour. The next leak could drop tonight, tomorrow, next week, or the exact second you get comfortable. And you already know the internet will explode the moment it happens. So do the smart thing, smash that like button like you're trying to break through encrypted files. Hit subscribe the way investigators hit locked servers. Turn on notifications like your digital life depends on it. Because when the next chapter drops, you're not going to want to miss a single second. And trust me, it's coming. Stories like this don't fade. They escalate. Drop your theories in the comments. Tell me if you think Alara was the mastermind or the pawn. Tell me who you believe CL really is. Tell me if you think the missing file will resurface and blow the entire Freedom Point Institute sky high. Because this investigation isn't just happening behind closed doors. It's happening right here in the comment section. But stay loud, stay curious, stay messy. This is Scandal Spark, where the next leak is always loading. And the truth hits harder every single time. Every single time.